part of the point, right? All right. So how do you go down and up and across in a yoga pose? So they say all these things, like I remember there was a moment, and this was like a really harsh moment in my, we all have our yogic stories, right? And especially in Iyengar yoga, they're not the kindest people sometimes, right? And I get that, but I had this encounter where and this is why, and I've told this story before, but unfortunately I live with like the same 7 or 8 stories inside my head all the time. And then I just like keep spinning them into other things, right? But this was a hard one. This was actually kind of an injury that I still carry, right? Which is, and it's not a physical injury. So I was at the 2002, I was 1 or 2, I think it was 2, Iyengar convention in Pasadena, California, and it was Gita Iyengar was there, and for whatever reason, and this is part of how, remember 2002 is a long time ago, right? Disability and yogic awareness has changed quite a bit, kind of a little bit, not a ton. And I just was, after the first day where I got to sit where I wanted to, I was immediately thrown into the therapeutic class because the assumption was made that I was there to therapeutically work on my disability as opposed to just be a yoga student, right? So, and understandably, Iyengar yoga has a whole bunch of therapeutic wisdom that's intense, right? So I'm in the back there and I'm doing my stuff and trying to follow along the class, and this pretty senior Iyengar teacher from Australia, who's not the kindest soul, um, got mad at me on the first day because I overdid something and burnt myself out. And then on the second day, she said this thing in disgust that I can still feel the words. She said, all you do is suck everything up. Right. So in my poses, right? So, which obviously um, on some level makes sense because I don't have as much control over my legs. And so it's hard to move down to my feet. And in terms of activation, it's much easier to draw things up, which, drawing things up is kind of what all the bandhas do too, just so you know. So it's not a complete F up, but the idea of energy moving the other direction is actually important. The thing that she didn't have was any really idea on how to help me move down, right? Apana, which is a really important energy, right? So it's like, to be able to shed things, that's your evacuation system, that's everything, that's actually a really important thing. But she didn't have anything besides disgust about the drawing up, right? And I've, that's part of why I've innovated how to do inversions while sitting and all these things. Like I work on a whole bunch of stuff, trying to figure out how to go energy, how to get energy moving this way and this way. And, obviously some of our principles of adaptive yoga are you have to go down to go up, right? That's one of the core principles of, right? Except one of the things is that there's also a way to draw up in order to go down. That, that's why I say these weird cryptic things to you, like, well, actually the rise and the fall are simultaneous in every pose, right? And that asana, one of the ways to realize asana is to realize the simultaneity of rising and falling in every pose and bringing those into balance. So if you know that things have to go up and down, chronically, simultaneously, because remember, existence doesn't have a privileged point of view, right? So empty space is already balanced. It's already happening, and we're manifesting through empty space. And so the idea of there being a down and an up is relative to the fact that we have a particular point of view, but the prana, right, it's not going to have a point of view. I know I'm confusing you all right now, but I'm actually talking literally right now. Right. And part of the realization in a yoga pose is to realize you're occupying every direction at once when you're in an asana. And that consciousness allows you to plug into different parts of the pranic spectrum differently at different times. Right. And so all this to say, how do you get down through your feet? You know, one of the great things about being able to walk, right, is that some of that you don't have to be conscious of, just like you don't have to be conscious of breathing the way I've been having you be super aware of breathing, right? And that a lot of this is done for you unconsciously. But if you get around in a wheelchair, you know that touching the earth is a privilege. It's not an assumption, right? The energy of the earth is one of the things that we should all allow us. You know, that's why I love Dave Matthews, right? So let's lay out on the earth tonight. For here we can rest safely, right? In order to realize the down, something has to drop down, but things need to drop down without compressing. Because if you compress, like in your spine, that's not going down. That's getting dull, right? So therein lies the task. How do I have stuff drop while rising and still find where the earth is? Sit up straight and tall. Now, I haven't started to talk about a cross yet. Why would a cross help? Why would poses go laterally while going up and down? What extra dimension does the lateral movement introduce to the down and the up? Damn it. It's cool. So if I go on the back side of my sitting bones and I collapse into my chair, right? That's a heavy down, right? It's like, ooh, that's a lot of gravity. There's the compression. This is like what? Why sitting's the new smoking, right? Right? Because then this is what's happening at computers, right? We're coming out through our eyeballs, we're typing on stuff, and we're dropping our chest. And so the way we're getting the down is actually like grinding down, right? It's compressing down. So you got to figure out how to make gravity your friend. So before we center a little bit, let's start to jump, right? Let's like add extra like broth to the downward force of gravity, right? We need more sensations, right? Now the thing is that we did this last time where I had us move before we centered, which is kind of not the smartest thing. It's good to try once in a while, but we're doing it again, right? So we're going to get lighter. So then when we do center, we don't just center into the heaviness part. So take your legs apart as much as you can too, right? So just like make more space. So like it turns out that your groins, they need to open, right? The relationship, the things that hold tight between the base of your spine and your legs and your femur bones, they need to kind of have more space in them. They need to be better conduits. Another one of the strange utterances I've always said in our training is that space is the conduit of the subtle body, not muscular action. Spaces. So now I've got my base of my spine open, so my knees are spread a little bit, right? I got the base of my spine opening a little bit. I'm trying to get the muscles to open, but don't think about this in terms of just muscles, right? Although that that's good too. But now we're adding a change and we're adding movement to, remember, prana is always going through your bones, right? Bones deliver prana better than muscles. They're more faithful to the flow of prana than muscles and ligaments. They can't move on their own though, but they are more faithful, right? And so now we're adding movement and shifts of gravity. As soon as I move my spine over my sitting bones, right, and extend, right, I'm trusting that my body's gonna deliver the change in gravity down my bones, down to my feet, right? So I'm doing this action and I'm not taking it for granted. I'm like going, damn, guess the room I've been living in that is bigger than I thought, right? And then now I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna lift my chest, right? So we're doing this movement and we're gonna add some rhythm to it. So we did a lot of this last week, a little bit of cat-cow stuff. Remember, last week I was telling you that and trying to share with you that you need to slow down and speed up time in asana. You need to go slow to know all that's happening. Your mind's slow to figure out all that's happening. So you slow it down so you can know it when you're speeding up. You can know what's there, right? So we're just doing this. We're trying to get this, and we'll go back and forth again. And again, and I'm pushing, like I'm taking my forearm and I'm pushing on one of my legs that's spread out because I'm finding the earth again. Earth here, right? And then earth here. So I'm taking gravity and I'm making sure I get more reference through my bones because my bones are the ones that are carrying the lion's share, distributing the lion's share of the gravity and the direction, right? And so now I'm going down, I'm pressing down, I'm finding earth to reference my forearms on my thigh, and I lift my chest a little bit. So I start to go back up. Now, what's interesting when I do this, remember, we're still going to center in a little bit, right? So we've got the chest going up here. I've got earth going down, got the simultaneity of the rise, and I'm trying to receive it, right? Is that I'm actually starting to go in both directions. So now I'm finding, oh, suddenly I don't want to center anymore. I want to like do something else. Like I'm going down over here, pushing down on this finger, I'm going up. And God, I'm pretty near triangle pose right now. I'm pretty near. I didn't mean to stumble into triangle pose, but suddenly I'm pretty near triangle pose here. Down, up, extend, right? And I'm thinking, dang, I kind of like this movement stuff, right? I kind of like it. Instead of just doing it on the outside and then forward again and up. So one of the things you start to notice, I hope, as you've been training your inward perception, let's make it technical for a second and say your interoceptive ability of noticing what's actually happening, right? Sounds cooler, right? It's interoception, right? Is that when I go over and I push down to go down to the earth to make sure my bones are going down. Remember, in order to know the earth, something has to drop, right? I go up. But if I'm really paying attention when I go up, I don't, although my will struggles to go up, right, and works up, I feel more down. Do you? I feel another level, another layer of the pose goes down when I go up. Eureka. right? In order for me to go down, I have to pay more attention than to what's just physical. This is what the teacher couldn't teach me back in 2002. There's subtlety going on. So I'm going up, and as soon as I start to go up this way, I actually feel a relief wash of light that's going down. It's in every pose. Good, and then release. What the heck? There's a mystery here to live in my body in a pranic field, right? In a pranic field that my body gets to get. It's not like you create prana or you grab prana, you just become a better vehicle for it. And what's great is you can store it. So I'm back to center now, right? And I'm trying to get all this sense. So I want you to be more aware of what's behind you now too, right? There's this song by a Minnesota band that never quite made it national, but they did. One of the song leader, one of the main people did, and he formed the band, Dan Wilson, he formed Semisonic. But when they were Trip Shakespeare, this is a Minnesota band, they had a song about, well, doesn't even matter, but this line I always hear, I think the world should come with me when I crash to the bottom of the earth. And I've always listened to that song. So when I actually when I'm being more aware of the cosmic soup that I'm actually in and which my body is a manifestation, and I move my chest and I lift it, I think that the space behind me, because remember, existence is always giving. Don't forget. It's always giving. It may take some time, take two, but it's always willing to invite you in, right? Human beings aren't, but existence is always giving. Same with nature, right? And so when I go to lift my chest here, I want to bring the space behind me into me as I lift my chest. I think the world should come with me as I fall to the bottom of the earth. And it will. It comes with me, right? I start to tingle when I start to realize that I'm in a cosmic soup. My skin starts to wake up, right? All of a sudden I go like, holy cow. Remember the classes where I taught when the arm comes through and have it move through your body, not just move to the empty space? All that stuff, this stuff is freaking happening, and it's got texture, right? And it moves and it comes with you, and it's really giving. All that I want you to center in right now. So now sit up straight and tall. All this feeling of lightness, all this rising feeling, all the things you access, the way your body woke up a little bit. Now we're going to come back to where the midline is. But instead of sitting on your wheelchair or sitting too hard on the floor, I want you to be aware of the simultaneous rise. So when I want you to press down through your sitting bones and lift up through your chest, I want you not to grind down. I want you to feel that it was already happening. I want you to lift the lower abdomen up to lift your chest, and realize when you do it more aware, you start to feel more things to your inner heel because it was already happening. Your brain just wasn't letting that information happen to your mind. Now, if you want to and can relatively easily bring your hands into prayer, I'm not doing it because I then collapse in my spine. Bring your hands into prayer. But regardless of whether you're putting your hands into prayer, find your midline. So now you've got the earth here, you've got lightness here. Now, in order to keep having things drop towards the earth, soften your jaw, the inside of the mouth, the skin on your face, start to quiet the organs of perception, but keep your spine alert and light. Find where your sitting bones on earth. Make space in your vertebrae. Broaden the spaces between the shoulder blades. Balance your head over your neck. Feel the space between the shoulders and your ears. Feel what's behind you. Be part of what's happening while connected to the earth. Feel the sky above your head, but bring it down to let it touch the top of your head, but meet it with your rising spine. And as you do, feel your feet on the floor. All this is already happening. Prepare your mind to do asana. Be grateful. It's a miraculous gift to have a body. Good. And then release. Take your hands down to your thighs. Take your sternum up towards your chin down over your sternum. Whole bunch of people before us say, if you want to plug in even deeper, this bandha helps. Notice the expansive sensation in your rib cage. Balance the upward desire of the lifted sternum with the humbleness of the dropped chin. Feel the breath into each nostril, into each lung. Feel each sitting bone, each foot. The universe allows you to have your will. Good, and then release. So we did a lot of down and up there. We haven't talked about a cross, but let's do a little version of dog pose here, right? So my hands are on the table. You could also have them on your, remember the space. I say this over and over, right? Of course, I should be a broken record, right? And that's because the space in your spine really matters. So you need to put your hands on the table or put your arms on your knees. But remember, when I'm doing it this way, a whole bunch of things are happening now. I'm using my wrists against my knees and I'm pushing back on my bones, right? Back this way to get my femur bone into my hip socket to help my chest lift, right? But then as I lift my chest, I go back down through my feet. I work the underside of my arms, right, up as I spread my palms. Why would I want you to spread your palms? Here comes the horizontal. Why would I want you to broaden across your sacrum, your low back, right? What does that do? Oh man, I do that, suddenly I want to straighten my head. All of a sudden alignment starts to happen. When I broaden, I find the earth better. What about you? Good, and then release. Going horizontally shows the earth, among other things. Now I'm going on the table and I'm doing it the other way. So I'm coming forward, right? And now I know. So in dog pose, your hands are on the floor and your feet are on the floor in a traditional dog pose, and you're like this, right? So this would be your legs up here, but the backs of your thighs are opening and spreading, right? Because when the backs of your thighs are going skyward, something cool happens to your spine, right? So you got to figure out how to do it here. Remember, prana doesn't care what your body's orientation is. So I'm coming forward here. So not only am I spreading across my palms on the table, not only am I going on the upper arm up and my forearm down vertical, I'm spreading my palms. I want to spread across my sacrum. I want to spread the space between my shoulder blades. I want to spread across my heel, but now I want to try to broaden across. So not just hit down into the seat with my sitting bones. I want to spread across the back of my thighs. But wait, I'm paralyzed. I can't do that. Bullshit, the voice calls, right? It's not true. Now I'm going to actually be more attentive to my breath. I'm horizontal, I'm vertical, and I'm breathing. And the world continues to feel miraculous. Good. And then release. Just because I already saw Bill doing this, right, earlier, he wanted to get his back or his chest open over the back of his chair. He's no stupid. He's got a reason why he wants this to open, right? So go back up over the back of your chair, right? And then come forward, and then come forward on your forearms and lift your sternum, right? But remember, the horizontal reveals the earth too, right? So I'm coming forward and I got gravity coming down. So I'm on my forearms, start to lift my sternum, but I want to lift my chest by broadening this, right? And opening and getting this to lift right here, right? So I'm here and I'm thinking, how am I going to do all that? I'm going to figure out ways to not just lift my chest up this way. I'm going to broaden it so I don't lose the earth. And I'm going to notice it lights up my legs and it makes me happy. It fills the room. Good. And then release. Now I'm going to do it this way because when I go back over my chair, I'm going to have a harder time staying connected to the earth, right? So I'm going to go put my hands on my thighs, go back up and over. So I push on my legs so I keep the earth here, right? And I use that to go up and over, but then when I broaden my chest, when I go this way, I make sure I use that action not to just get farther back this way, but I use the broadening action of my chest to feel my legs. Then I make more space from my sternum to my chin. But I'm keeping the earth by broadening my chest. Good. And then release. There are certain poses in your practice that in different practices that make you happy. That back bend just made me happy, right? It made me remember some stuff. So now I'm rocking back and forth and bringing it right into rhythm, right? So I know rhythm is going to matter here, right? And as I go backwards and forward, it's not just that I'm doing it rhythmically. I'm actually feeling gravity shift prana onto my legs, up through my chest. I'm watching me move through the cosmic soup. All these things are happening, right? Because I'm waking up, right? I'm waking up for the week. I don't know about you. I got some shit to do this week, right? So I'm like using this practice to like wake my ass up and over again. Right. And so, of course, although it is all about your spine, the cool things about asana is it tries to include your limbs too, right? It's not just this core channel, but the core channel is pretty freaking important, right? All right, so we're gonna try to get, so because I am paralyzed from the chest down, right? As soon as, as soon as I take both arms wide, I collapse. My spine collapses. That doesn't mean I shouldn't do it, right? It just means I get to be aware of the fact that, dang, because I have to sacrifice balance, I have to like let my spine collapse. So now I'm going to try to fix that a little bit by hitting down through my sitting bones, lifting my chest, extending up to the top of my head. I'm going to release second because I got nerve pain going under my arm. But what I'm trying to do is even in a position where I'm feeling the collapse because I'm slightly off balance, which I know everyone, unless you're like the best yogi that's ever been, when you take both arms wide, there is a compression in your spine, right? Right? It's not as pronounced as mine. But what I'm trying to do is make sure that when my arms are expressing this core energy, so I'm going to try to make it more obvious, right? When my arms are expressing, put my hands on my chest, right? So when I take both arms out, I'm going to connect this spot to my sitting bones, to my heels. I'm going to try to occupy more space in my body, my mind, and then take my arms out and do it as an expression of my spine. Already, it's more graceful, right? And so those of you that can lengthen from your sideways to your side armpit, you are lucky, right? I can't quite do that, right? So I'm going to try to get there. I'm going to try to see those spaces, broaden between my shoulder blades, open the palms of my hands, spread my fingers, balance my head over my neck, hit down through my sitting bones, extend out to the top of my head, feel the space behind me, feel the space under my arms, and breathe. Good, and then release. Now contrast that, even if you got more trunk control than I do, contrast that to the same movement without moving your arms. So now, because for me, the difference is when I take both arms out, I have to fall back on my sitting bones. When I do it without moving my arms, I get to stay forward on my sitting bones. So now I want you to do the same pose from the midline and don't move your arms, but extend your arms from your shoulders, the other set of arms you have. You got one arms that go here, and then you got another set of arms that can go out wide. Now, how do you move those arms? Well, that's interesting, right? How do you move the other set of arms you have that can go horizontally to the room? Well, you hit down through the sitting bones and broaden the space between the shoulder blades. You lift the chest and you extend out beyond your shoulder tips. Good, and then release. Now I want everyone to lean back on the back side of their sitting bones, even if you don't have to, and then take your arms out and see how much heavier your arms are. Now, those of you that are cool, not me, that take your arms down, that can come forward on your sitting bones and take your arms wide, which I can't do at the same time. You are lucky, right? Stay in the space around you. Stay grounded through your midline. Breathe. Good. So now for me, it's better if I change gravity, stay balanced, and then take one arm, because then I can still keep the earth. I can still stay on the front side of my sitting bones. And I can still touch the center of my chest, the seat of consciousness, right? Make sure that this space gets connected to the space between my sitting bones, which gets connected to the space above the top of my head, which once I start doing that, I start to feel connected to this leg here. Whole bunch of things start happening on the subtle body. Then I inhale and take my arm wide. So now I hit down through the left leg. I stretch up with the right arm. I bring more awareness to the bottom side of my left rib cage, my left side body. I extend. I try to move from the center of my chest to the center of my elbow, to the center of my palm. I hit down through the sitting bones. I extend out to the top of my head, and I figure out how my legs can help the action. So some of you can do it from the legs to the action. I have to go the other way. Good, and then release, right? And we're gonna go the other way, right? Over. I get to be more grounded, right? Damn, one of the things that was always the hardest thing for me when I was teaching in person, to get people to choose balance before they choose accomplishment in a pose. It's important, right? So I love this because I get to choose balance. And right away, it makes me want to lift my chest, and find the earth, and broaden, and all these things. And then I connect to the seat of consciousness. I make sure my mind allows it to be connected to my sitting bones, to my feet. I extend my spine, I straighten my head. And then this becomes an expression of fullness from my spine. Now, in order to keep it an expression of my spine, my shoulder blade has to come into my body as I extend from the center of my elbow to the center through my palm. Now I extend down through my sitting bones, out through the top of my head. And I start breathing more consciously, making sure I use all this extension, all this horizontal and vertical extension, to breathe into my legs. Space to create space. Breath to mark it. Good. Oof. Got my shoulder jammed, right? Dog pose again. Remember the backs of the thighs broadening, the sacrum broadening, low back, down through the legs, up through the chest, broadening between the shoulder blades, extending down towards the earth through my sitting bones, down to the ground, extending out through the top of my head. Damn it, I breathe into my right lung more than my left. I got work to do, right? Ugh. Means I have to derotate. I have more of a twist in my spine than most of you do, so I have to derotate my spine. And I can breathe into my left nostril and left lung better. But I have to work at it. Good, and then release. Extend, if you can, your own elbow up. But I want you to do that to feel your sitting bones and your legs, right? I want this to extend open to reveal more subtlety down. What? We've been practicing this the whole class. This ability to take something and go in both directions, right? And then the other side, which doesn't work as well for me because I go more off balance, right? So I can't, when I extend from here to here, I can't feel my legs as much, but I'm trying to, right? I got stuff to work on. Ooh, it gets lost in my scoliosis, but that's okay. I have to know. It just takes more work. But the work is in the surrender, not in the trying harder. If I try harder to force prana into the spaces that are dark, it's not a smart strategy, right? You don't force prana from light into dark, right? Both arms, if you can. Otherwise, go back to it, right? And remember, there's classes. I'm drawing on classes from a long time ago, right? This part of your forearm goes down while your wrist goes up. What? So when this goes down here, right? Does anyone notice that this lengthens up? And then the wrist goes towards the sky, and that moves the bottom edge of your shoulder blade, and you can reveal your legs more. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening in the base of headstand that actually reveals energy going down. And just breathe. Good. And then release. So tell me it's 50 and not 58. It can't even see my, oh, it's good. I got more time. Okay, so one of the things about headstand, remember, we're still trying to get all this to go down, right? Because it's easy to suck things up, except it's not that easy. So, so one of the things about headstand is that it's a meditation pose. It's a balanced meditation, right? And so this next time, if you can take, even if you can just take one arm over your head, if you can take both, that'd be great, right? Or if you just want to do Tadasana and to pay attention to the down, right? So what I want, so we know this energy goes up to go down, right? Right. So I'm doing this and I'm activating this by trying to take, as I'm up like this somehow tries to go down and the wrist goes up, right? And so that changes your connection to the earth if you pay attention. See, when you're upside down, that'll show you where your feet are. So we're just like making in terms of the earth, right? So now when you're doing this action and getting this down and this rising, because this needs to stay long if you're upside down, right? So you're not compressing, and your neck needs to not compress. So lengthen your own neck, right? To reveal your legs, right? But now go inward, balance in the space around you. As you go up and go up with the wrist, down with the forearm, but up this way because there's weight on the top of your head. Extend down to your sitting bones and your feet at the same time. So don't interpret those instructions with your mind. Do it with prana. Go in both directions. Go inward to feel the prana. Breathe. Good, and then release. Sit up in Tadasana. So now this time, do the same thing without taking your arms over your head. You mean Tadasana is just upside down Shavasana? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Good. Now, what's your fingers right here? Like you got suspenders on and you're Farmer Joe or Farmer Jill, right? And push in on your rib cage and lift your chest up. And when you get this extra reference, if you can only do one at a time, that's fine, right? And you get this extra reference, broaden across your chest. Lift your sternum and drop your chin. Good, and then release. So one of the things when you're upside down in shoulder stand is that this lift of the chest and the lengthening of the back of your neck, because you're upside down, you're forced into it, right? Is supposed to help you rise up through your legs, right? And it's tough. It's a tough pose. Go again. So what I'm going to ask you to do is do this, get the chest more lifted, drop the chin, and lengthen the back of your neck. Before you do it, right? Remember, we've already been talking about when you lengthen the back of your neck, you actually can feel your feet more. This length reveals this direction. Okay. So when I'm going to do this and lift myself, I'm not going to be in a rush. Remember, slowing down the timing of poses. I'm not going to be in a rush to drop my chin. I'm going to get this lift, broaden between my shoulder blades, use the horizontal extension to feel where my feet and legs are, right? Drop my chin. And as I drop my chin, I'm going inward, keeping my chest lifted. And I'm looking for my legs. I'm using the extra reference on my rib cage to know where my spine is. Good, and then release. Now, I've been finding that if I go too quickly to just taking my arm behind my back, right? And I get caught in the drama of trying to get this open, and I can't do both at once, right? I forget the importance of my rib cage. So take one arm behind your back, I'm pushing the back of my hand into my spine to make my spine come forward into my body. This is exactly what you'd be doing in shoulder stand. You'd be using your hands to get your spine to come forward because it reveals your legs. When I don't do it and my spine collapses, my legs get dull. My spine comes forward. I lift my chest, broaden between my shoulder blades, hit down through my sitting bones, extend from the inner groin to my inner knees, and breathe. I'm going down, but in an inversion, it would be up. Good, and then release. Now I'm going to do it on the other side. Now, if you can do both at once after you do this, if you can eventually do both at once, more power to you, right? Right. So I'm going to do it on the other side now. Again, I'm remembering the pressure of Farmer Joe and Farmer Jill, right? As I bring and I try to get the shoulder to be more open. Because as soon as the shoulder gets more open, the energy goes down my spine to my legs better. Right? Which would be the same thing if you're upside down in shoulder stand. So I'm getting that action. Then I'm taking the lift in my sternum, the broad between the shoulder blades, and I'm extending down through my spine, extending from the inner groin to the inner knee down to the inner heel. Drop my chin. Drop my chin, lengthen my neck to feel my legs. Good. and then release. For those of us that have to struggle and toil with difficult mind-body relationships, right? It's we really have to work to find the earth, to actually receive it too. Right. And this is especially true if you get around in a wheelchair, right? Because you're not touching it as much, not directly, right? So become alert. I'm sitting up a little bit. I'm preparing for Shavasana, right? But I'm hoping that because of the things we've done, maybe you're a little bit more polished right now at using up, down, and across, even when you're sitting like this, right? Up, down, and across to occupy the space inside your own vessel. Do it evenly. Feel each foot. Sitting bone. Each side of your breastbone. Breathe into your dimension. Good. And then it's time to let your chair hold you up. Release. Right. Right. Soften your jaw on the inside of your mouth. Right. That's part of the down. Balance your head over your neck. Feel more rather than less. Let go. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Thank it again. Start to bring yourself back. Awareness of your breath shows you location. When you're ready, open your eyes. Not ready, close them again. And then open them for the week. So today in Minnesota, it's a beautiful day, right? The sun is like glorious. Things are super green. It's been raining a lot. And there's a line from a Bruce Cockburn song that I thought of this morning. It's a great song. Um, but one of the lines is the song is really sweet. He's up on a roof having a glass of wine with his partner. And he's noticing how beautiful she is. And he says, "Look how far the light came to paint you." I love that line. So the sunlight comes to paint you, and look how far it came to bring you into relief, to help you reflect stuff, to have you have definition, right? To have you be here. All right. So hopefully that class made some sense. Hands together. Namaste. Spirit in me bows to the spirit in you. It seems to be painting my beard kind of gray. I still persist in believing it's blonde. What the hell? I can believe what I want.